I was going to take one more day off before I started riding again, but it was a beautiful day because everything else is raining. Every other day is raining just about. May be able to ride tomorrow too. So anyway, I did 2.5 hours just about of basically zone 1, very low zone 2, polarized zone 1, we'll call it that. And now I'm going to do a little Zwift racing, crit time. Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis the Cycling Greek. January is the start of my VO2 Max training block. Now I'm not starting from ground zero. During the off season I was doing one Zwift race a week, or close to once a week. For those of you not familiar with my channel, I'm old. And so when you're old, you gotta keep your upper intensity going during the off season. Of course you can't keep it in your top form because you'll get burned out, but you gotta keep it lubed. So while we have all this rain going on in California, and it is a blessing even though I have to do Zwift all the time and I can't go outside except on rare occasions, I use the following protocol. I have a set of intervals that I do in one day a week, and I do a Zwift race on the other day of the week. Now the other days that I'm riding, and hopefully it's usually outside, it'll be endurance. At the start of this race, I was feeling a little bit better, a little bit stronger than I did last week when I did this crit. I'm looking to improve on not only my watts per kilogram, but also my variability. Variability is what I learned from one of my subscribers just the other week. And with my hanging on for dear life during a number of these races, variability is not what I have. From ZwiftPower.com, here are the top 22 finishes in the race that entered the last lap together. The far right column is a normalized power. Color in that little box indicates their variability. The variability is basically accelerations, whether it's an attack or chasing somebody that's just attacked. The greater the color, the more your repeatability is in being able to do those accelerations. Speaking of accelerations, this is often where it'll happen, on the cobbled climb. While no one out and out attacked on this first lap, I'm hitting 5.5 WKs and I'm slipping toward the back. When we get to the top, I'm going to see if everyone is bunching up or if they're going to be extending this out and have to go faster until they start to slow down. Well, they're making me maintain my speed, but it doesn't look like anybody is out and out attacking. That would be a killer for me. Since I'm the ripe old age of 67, I think I should be more concerned about my watts per kilogram average for this race as opposed to my variability. Once my watts per kilogram get higher, then I'll be able to do stuff, which translates into variability. I realize that is a big ask, especially with Cat B competitions such as this 48 strong field. Well, today was a pretty good day to go ride outside, which I did obviously before I did this race. The next day was too. Natalia, who was on my wheel, let me know of a ride that was happening the next day. I joined her, Amy, and Cat 2 Ron so we can ride out to the official start of the ride. Now, when I first heard about this ride, I just calculated in my head that it would be about 75, maybe 80 miles. There would also be a lot of others joining with a wide range of abilities, so I figured I'd be doing a lot of endurance, which is what I wanted to do. Once we got on the road, we calculated this was going to end up to be like a 103-mile ride. That in itself was not that bad, especially if I was going to do a lot of endurance, but some of my energy reserves on the second day of riding got unexpectedly used because Cat 2 Ronnie went to the front and pulled us for 30 miles at 20 mile per hour average. Now I've done 2.5 hour pace lines at 20 miles per hour average before, but I was fresh when I first started that, and this is my second day of riding, and on top of doing a Zwift crit that you're also watching. And at 30 miles into this ride, there's still a little over 70 miles to go. Speaking of that Zwift crit, let's jump back to it. We are now on the second lap approaching the cobbled climb. This is where the action usually happens. Position myself towards the front so I can drift back if I needed to, and I also have that feather power up, which I just activated before the turn. This way it's going to last when I get past the other turn and the subsequent crest. Well, my ultimate goal is to win one of these races. I have to take this in steps, and the first step is lasting with the main pack halfway through the race. So that means by the end of lap 4, I still need to be with the pack. To get a bird's eye view of what's going on, look at the little map inset in the upper right hand corner and you'll see that we're all stretched out. I'm ranging between 300 and 350 watts just to keep up with these guys. We are on the small straight leading to the rollers. It's the rollers where those in the front are going to try and split the group and establish their own breakaway. While we have a couple people splitting off the back, there's no one splitting off the front, and I'm still with the pack. To be as efficient as I can, I put extra power on the uphill, and I dial back on the downhill. Put a little extra power on the uphill, dial back on the downhill. With the start finish right around the corner and the pack starting to slope a bit, looks like I made it through 25% of this race connected. Back to the next day. The first climb took us a little over 20 minutes. I was well aware not to overdo my energy usage. During that climb, we split off from the others, and when we got to the top, there was a small store there where we had to again fill up with water. At least we wanted to, because that was going to be our last water stop for a long time. At least we got back to this particular store. Those of us that had stopped took off in pieces, and I stayed with the last group, which was the strong group. They were punching it up the climbs, something I didn't want to do, so I fell off, then did my own thing for miles till we met up again.
Definitely.
And we're back to the crit. Cobbled climb, lap number 3. This time I have no power up, and I'm feeling a little exposed. Most everyone else is hitting in the 5, 6, and 7s for the watts per kilogram, and I've just gotten a 5.0. Now I've done this to meter my energy because I just don't have a lot like these guys have. So I can drift back and I can still stay connected, but I'm running out of energy, I can tell. I'm putting out all the watts I can right now, so I'm hoping they slow down. At least I'm hoping I get a wheel. As I round the corner into the straight that leads to the rollers, my wattage has gone down. I'm hoping that if I just keep at it, I'll reconnect on the rollers. In the meantime, I'm taking stock of the situation, and that means I'm looking at the graphics on the right hand side and looking at the numbers, and I see that I have somebody that's with me, I have somebody that's about 7 seconds back, 8 seconds back, and another group of 2 that's about 13 seconds back. So it's now looking like I'm not going to catch those guys. So my plan now is to get together with Martin Del Forte, who's right in front of me. I figure that we'll then spend the next lap seeing how the people in back of us are doing relative to how we're doing. Because we are on lap 3, and yeah, I didn't make it to the end of lap 4. If we can stay away from them for the entire race, that'd be great, but that is a big ask. Back to the next day. We're now on one of the early climbs after our turnaround points. I am with the stronger riders of the lead group. The others have split off and formed their own groups behind us. We've been climbing for a little while, and the pace is now just starting to get to me. I'm starting to let these guys go. I don't want to redline because we still have about 45 miles to go at least. I figure at this point, I'll just do my own endurance pace. Eric, the only other guy in our group, accelerates past me and reconnects with them. There are still a minimum of 2 strong guys somewhere behind me, so if nothing else, maybe I can hang on to them once I get over the top, and then we can reconnect with these guys. About 90 seconds later, I looked out. Somebody dropped a chain, so I got to reconnect. Little did I know that things were going to enhance in a little bit. Back to the race. We now picked up 2 more riders. One is a lapped rider, and the other one is one of the riders that was chasing us. Still another rider about 3 seconds behind. I obviously have no idea what they're like, but I figure that they're younger and that they're stronger. It looked like the rider who had caught us, Steve O'Wonder from the United Kingdom, was making a bid to continue on his pace, but looks like that's not happening, that he slowed up a bit and we're cruising back up to him. By the time we start the 7th of 8 laps, we're caught by that last chaser, Paul Tremblay from Canada. There were a couple individual attempts to get away, but nothing stuck. So we all pretty much waited until this climb on this last lap. Del Forte, who originally formed this break with, lights it up and just screams away from us. If I had the legs, this is what I would have wanted to do. But now I'm just trying to hang on to these guys, and one guy is now trying to bridge up to him. Assessing that I don't have the legs to do this, I'm now just waiting on this guy's wheel, so I'm hoping that he's going to pull me up. But he doesn't look like he's going to be doing anything, so now I got to go do something. All of a sudden, Tremblay comes up, and so now I'm going to get on his wheel. At least I'm going to try so he can pull me up to those guys. I do have an arrow power up, but I'm not going to use it just yet. The Forte is now 2 seconds up. No way I'm catching him. So my plan now is just hang on Tremblay's wheel and then sprint with him at the end. But you're going to have to wait for that. Back to the next day. While the chain was getting fixed, 2 others from the strongest of our group came up. I figured the best thing I could do in order to survive with this group was actually go to the front and pull, because this group is usually pretty good about letting people go to the front and just staying there until they want to get off. As long as my pace was good enough, this might work. So now that we finished that climb, we're kind of like in an undulating portion of the course right now. Maybe little flats, little descents. At a certain point, the climbing is going to start again for the last major climb before we get to the flats. Jumping to the middle of that last major climb, I'm still in the front. And in fact, I'm pulling at threshold. My FTP is around 270 watts, and I'm pulling right around there. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, that's pretty good. CG's doing okay. But this is about the 60-mile mark, so we still have like 40 plus miles to go. At that point, Natalia, who's right in back of me, is rethinking her strategy. She's thinking, we still have 40 plus miles to go, so I'm going to pull off. So I don't think I'm riding her off my wheel. I think she's just being smart. an attribute that maybe I should take more advantage of. When Natalia opened up that gap, that caused Juan and his compatriots from the Monk Cycling Club, of which the only ones here are Hispanic, I'm still trying to figure that one out, and Cat 2 Ronnie to come up to me and then just go right past me. Actually, the last three was stuck on my wheel, but Juan just accelerated past, so they're just jumping after him. I can't jump after him, so I'm just going to keep up my pace. What happens is that they slow down just a bit, and now they're dangling in front of me, so I'm trying to now increase my pace to catch them. And then they start to go, but they slowly start to go a little faster, so now I'm on a long chase. I do that chase for quite a while at a good pace until the pace runs out. My muscles give up the ghost and I go on reserve. After taking in a few more calories and filling up my water, we bid the others adieu from our original start location, and the original 4 of us plus the 3 HRC group are now heading on back. For that last 30 miles, I was on the edge. At times, I had to have the group slow down just a bit. I would fall off the back. Somebody would come with me to help pull me back up, or at least help keep me in parity. We'd have little regroup points, or little regroup rolling points. Thank goodness that this group was protecting this old guy, because if I was by myself, I was going to take twice as long to get home. In fact, with about 8 miles to go, we had a bit of a tailwind, and so I found myself at the front, and I was trying to take a pull, and I was feeling good enough I was going to take a pull. But as protective as the others were being, and I certainly didn't mind that, Natalia quickly came up and said, "Don't worry, I'll get in front." Now, let's jump back and see how that sprint is going to go. We're now entering the roller section. I am in back of Tremblay, just where I want to be. So far, so good. Tremblay, in the meantime, is thinking, I don't want this guy to be in back of me, so he slows up a bit. That brings me to the front. Not so good. Now that was my mistake, not going to the front, but when I saw that he slowed down, I should have just punched it. Tremblay now is punching it, just as I'm reaching over to hit the arrow power up button. So now I'm starting to pick it up. I should be in the drops to generate more power as I sprint, but I'm not thinking about that. I don't know if it's hypoxia or if it's reality, but it looks like I'm starting to get a little distance back on him. I really have to work on generating more power in a sprint. Tremblay takes it, good on him. While my variability sat at a measly 4%, my watts per kilogram increased to 3.5. When I compare that to the 3.81 of the top 22 that entered the last lap together, I still have a ways to go. Still, small improvements. Let's close out that next day. Fuck, that was hard. Even on the flats, we were being pulled mostly by Cat 2 Ronnie. Cat 2 Ronnie pulled us for 30 miles at 20 miles an hour on the flats to meet the rest of the group. And then I went real hard on one of the last long climbs and then chased them, the leaders that had jumped away from me on the climb. And then I slowed up. And then my muscles started to give up the ghost. Fuck, that was hard.